So, how do you prepare for a war that might not happen while you're already fighting a battle every single day? I mean, that's the heart of the problem for Taiwan, a strategic knot with, frankly, no easy way to untangle it. Let's get into it.
Okay, so picture this. On one side of the coin, you have the daily grind. Taiwan needs those big ticket items, right? The fancy F-16s to show the flag and push back against constant harassment. But flip that coin over, and for D-Day, for the actual invasion, they need the exact opposite. We're talking cheaper, survivable, almost disposable systems like mobile missile launchers. It's like they have to buy two completely different militaries at the same time, and their budget is getting torn in two because of it.
All right, to really get a feel for this tug-of-war, let's start with that daily battle. It's a relentless grinding campaign known as gray zone coercion.
Now, don't just think of this as random pestering. It's way more than that. This is a very deliberate, calculated strategy from the People's Republic of China. The whole point is to bleed Taiwan dry, to exhaust its forces and its finances, all while staying just under that line that would trigger an actual war.
And if you want to see what this looks like in raw numbers, look at this. 1,737. That's how many times Chinese military aircraft flew into Taiwan's air defense zone in 2022 alone. Think about that. That's an average of nearly 5 times every single day. Taiwan's pilots are practically living in their cockpits.
And you can bet that level of activity has a massive price tag. In just one reported instance, responding to these flights cost the Taiwanese Air Force over 710 million new Taiwan dollars. And that's just for extra maintenance and parts. It's a financial bleed-out, plain and simple.
So you have to understand, this is the whole point. This is the PRC's strategy in action. It's a war of attrition. Every single time a Taiwanese F-16 has to scramble, that's more fuel burned, more stress on the engine, more wear on the airframe. They're trying to literally wear out Taiwan's best jets and drain its bank account before a single shot is even fired in a real war.
Okay, so if the daily battle is that expensive, what about the big one? What's the plan for an all-out, full-scale invasion? Well, that brings us to something called the Porcupine Strategy.
This was really championed by Admiral Lee Simon, and the core idea is brilliant in its simplicity. You don't try to go toe-to-toe with a heavyweight. Instead, you become a porcupine. You make yourself so prickly, so covered in sharp, painful quills, in this case, tons of small, cheap, mobile, and lethal weapons, that trying to swallow you would be an absolute nightmare. The goal isn't to beat the attacker, it's to make the cost of attacking you so horrifically high that they don't even try. That's deterrence by denial.
Now here's where it gets really fascinating. You'd think everyone would be on board with this, right? It makes perfect sense. But no. The Porcupine Strategy has run into a ton of resistance from inside Taiwan's own military. It seems there's this powerful inertia, a preference for the old way of doing things, for those big, traditional, shiny pieces of hardware.
And this right here is the perfect example of that internal fight. They actually canceled a plan to buy 60 small, stealthy missile boats. I mean, the quintessential porcupine quill. And what did they do instead? They committed to building 2 huge, expensive 2,000-ton frigates. Sure, they look great at a naval parade, but in a real war, they're just giant floating bullseyes.
Of course, a nation's defense isn't just about weapons. Think about our porcupine again. For those quills to really work, the body of the porcupine itself, the society, the people, has to be tough and resilient.
This whole idea is called whole of society resilience, and it's basically the foundation that the entire Porcupine Strategy is built on. Because think about it, if an enemy can create chaos, disrupt food and water, and break the public's will to resist, all those missiles and mines don't mean nearly as much. Resilience is the human shield behind the military one.
And this is a massive undertaking. It's everything from training, say, 400,000 civilians in what to do in an emergency, to stockpiling food and fuel, to making sure the power grid doesn't collapse. And maybe most importantly, in our modern age, it's about gearing up society to fight off cognitive warfare, disinformation.
I love this. This line is actually in Taiwan's official civil defense handbook. It's basically trying to build social immunity, to vaccinate the public ahead of time against the kind of psychological warfare that would be used to sow panic and convince people to give up.
And all of this brings us right back to where we started, back to that central dilemma. Taiwan is literally forced to weigh every single dollar, every decision, against these 2 completely different kinds of threats.
So when it comes right down to it, what's the choice? How do these competing needs actually look when you put them side by side?
Well, let's look at a trade-off matrix that lays it all out.
Okay, look at this. This chart shows you the whole problem in black and white. It's a total flip-flop of value. See the top row? Those high-end platforms, the F-16s and big ships, they're great, absolutely vital for that daily gray zone fight. But in an actual war, they're huge targets, their survivability is low. Now, look at the bottom row. Those asymmetric systems, the mobile missiles and sea mines, pretty much useless for chasing a jet on a Tuesday afternoon. But in an invasion, their survivability is very high, which means their deterrence value is off the charts.
And here's the brutal takeaway. The very act of winning the daily gray zone fight by flying those expensive jets day in and day out could actually be making Taiwan weaker for the one fight that truly threatens its existence. Every dollar spent patching up an F-16 is a dollar that can't be spent on 100 sea mines or a dozen mobile missile launchers.
So it all comes down to this one impossible question. Which is the greater risk? Is it losing your sovereignty slowly, by inches, every single day in the gray zone? Or is it losing everything, all at once, in a single day of invasion? That is the razor's edge that Taiwan has to walk. It's an incredible dilemma. And honestly, the answer they choose will have consequences for the entire Indo-Pacific.